Hey guys, hello and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today we have some pretty massive news for all things dark side. So I hope you're feeling the power of the Force today because we have a huge update for Maul Shadow Lord, and we've also got some big reveals for the Acolyte that we never got. Scrapped concepts and plot details that never made it into the final version of the show. But we first begin with an enormous revelation for one of the most mysterious members of the Inquisitorius. Do you remember this guy? And no, I know what you're thinking, it's not the guitarist from Slipknot. This is an Inquisitor known as the 11th Brother, and he originates in Tales of the Jedi, but he also appeared in Tales of the Empire, and now he's back with Marrok in Maul Shadow Lord, and this is before his ultimate death at the hands of Ahsoka. But up until now, for whatever reason, Lucasfilm has had a really hard time being consistent with the canon surrounding the character. When he first appeared in Tales of the Jedi, he was just credited as Inquisitor. Then they mistakenly called him the First Brother, which was later ascribed to Marrok. And then finally, they labelled him the 11th Brother. But now thanks to a reveal from Funko Pop, in Maul Shadow Lord, maybe before he's granted the rank of Brother, he is simply known as the Crow. A very fitting name considering his aesthetic, and I'd love to find out who he once was as a Jedi. Now this might be a hot take, but I think the Crow's design is the coolest of all of the Inquisitors, certainly one of the most menacing. It's hard to imagine once upon a time this guy served the Jedi Order, and I don't know if you remember this, but one of the reasons this guy was so spoken about is because when he first appeared in Tales of the Jedi to confront Ahsoka, we assumed he was the same Inquisitor from the Ahsoka book by E.K. Johnston. A few sprinkles of the novel were adapted, but it's mostly been retconned. The fight scene between Ahsoka and the Inquisitor was a bit different, but we still assumed the fight in the animated show was some kind of adaptation. But when they confirmed he wasn't the sixth brother, it means the two fights were separate, and that didn't sit well with a lot of fans, especially those who invested the time and of course the money to purchase the book. But the Crow is a pretty badass name, and we also have the names of Maul's new henchmen, Icarus and Scorn. And Icarus has a minigun for an arm. We got a brief glimpse at him in the trailer, and I'm sure he's going to be a fan favourite. We also have a new look at the changed design for Rook Cast. Her Sith-looking visor is gone. One character who I think is going to be a surprise in this show is Dryden Voss, who also appeared in the Clone Wars. And while fans are wondering if we might see Kira at some point, Dryden doesn't come across her until 13 BBY. So 5 years after Shadow Lord, but you never know, there might be a season 2. So excited for this show, April 6th. But moving on my friends, let's now talk about the Acolyte, because we have some huge revelations from the Art of the Acolyte book. This is my third video on the subject, but the previous two were based on excerpts. Today, the full thing has released, and we have some crazy new information for the Acolyte that could have been. The series was originally very different. Its title, its themes, its Easter eggs, its references, and yes indeed, the Bith Sith Lord, Master to Darth Plagueis, Darth Tenebrous, was referenced. Let's dive straight in. According to the new book, the very divisive Disney Plus show was originally not titled The Acolyte, but rather Star Wars The Lost Sister. Now while I'm not the biggest fan of the show that we got, The Acolyte is so much better. The Lost Sister doesn't sound Star Wars-y, maybe as a theme, but the original title directly alludes to the twin sisters, Osha and May. Now we get on to some of the more controversial stuff, notably the Witch Coven, which originally wasn't set on Brendok. According to the new book, Mother Anastaea's coven of witches originally lived in a castle called Anisham Castle. It's described as opulent, leaning into the fairy tale qualities of Naboo from The Phantom Menace. But Leslie Headland says the witch coven was originally from Dathomir, and because Mother Coral, one of the twins' mothers, was a Zabrak, we kind of assumed that when she vanished, she didn't die. Leslie Headland alluded to the fact she found her way back to Dathomir. And here's what I'm thinking. Because Dave Filoni had a say in creating these witches, I wonder if his input came very early on, when they were still Dathomirian, before they became the Brendok witches. Because I'm pretty sure if the story group was ever going to give us Dathomir, Dave Filoni would absolutely have been consulted. He's done so much with the planet in the Clone Wars, in Rebels, and he's going to do it again in Ahsoka Season 2. Moving on, my friends, a huge revelation for the stranger, Chimera. This one is pretty crazy and concerns his helmet design. Even though Leslie Headland was mostly inspired by Kylo and the Knights of Ren, the new book reveals that the bulbous aspects of it were a nod to the Bith species, and notably, especially in the early designs, Darth Tenebrous' head. Now this is such an interesting creative choice. Was it just meant to be an Easter egg, just a reference? Or did Lucasfilm intend to do more with the lineage of the Sith? I don't see why there would be a Tenebrous or Bith connection with Chimera, because Leslie said he was supposed to be separate to the Sith. Plagueis is the only true Sith in the show. Chimera is the founder of the Knights of Ren, but we know there are some expanded universe connections with the Cortosis, with Boldemnik, and so maybe, had Season 2 come out, we might have had a Tenebrous mention. Maybe in canon this is just after Plagueis killed him. Another insane reveal from this book is how different the opening scene would have been. We would have seen May kill Master Indara in a very similar way, but it would have taken place on Nar Shaddaa. And not only this, a small hutlet was also set to feature in Osha's escape from imprisonment in the Acolyte episode 1. And it seems like these days Lucasfilm loves huts. We saw them in Book of Boba Fett, Skeleton Crew, we're going to see the Hutt twins again and Rotter in The Mandalorian and Grogu, and there was originally going to be a live-action hutlet in The Acolyte. The book also mentions Naboo quite a bit, so The Acolyte in more ways than one was inspired by The Phantom Menace. Leslie Headland also mentions the lightsaber choreography, and we also now have confirmation that Lee Jung-jae's character Master Soul was inspired by Qui-Gon Jinn. He studied Liam Neeson's portrayal in episode 1 in preparation for The Acolyte, an apt parallel many fans made during the airing of the show. Another huge reveal, my friends, concerns Osha's job. At the start of the show she was a mechneck, which according to the art of the Acolyte would have altered canon. The idea was that they were meant to be the earliest forms of R2 units. The droids were meant to be their robot replacements, Astromech, Mechneck, Astro, Mech. But before R2 units, at least according to this show, organic beings did their jobs and took great risks. Another interesting tidbit, the stranger was nicknamed Frank in the earliest concepts. One of the early leaks said Paul, but maybe that was the nickname of Darth Plagueis. And also, my friends, the Jedi Yord Fandar was originally a Duros, like Cad Bane. Those are some of the big reveals from the book, my friends. Some of them really strange, others better than what we saw in the show, especially Nar Shaddaa. Maybe we'll see it in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. But with that said, my dear friends, those are all of the dark side reveals for today. Lots to discuss. I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you, always.